This week, I spoke with the Honorable Frank Kendall, Secretary of the U.S. Air Force, who joined me from the Air Force Association's annual Airspace and Cyber Conference. I asked him about China.
Well, for over a decade now, I've watched what China's been doing to modernize its military. And it's been fairly clear to me that they're designing a force with the intention of having the ability to deter and, if necessary, defeat U.S. intervention in the Western Pacific. They're basically creating the assets that they need to come after what they perceive as our vulnerabilities.
So what does this mean for the Air Force in terms of the strategy moving forward, the need to modernize the Air Force, the need to be able to counter China?
That's right. And my focus initially on coming into office 2 years ago was on modernization. It was on getting to the next generation of capability so that we could be more competitive. And we spent a lot of time analyzing the operational problems we had to solve, and we've put a lot of the work that resulted from that into our budget that's currently awaiting passage by the Congress.
And I do want to get into the budget outlook with you just a little bit more, but first, in terms of China, if China were to, say, invade Taiwan or impose a blockade on Taiwan, is the Air Force and more broadly the U.S. military in a position to counter that right now?
We are, but there's more operational risk than I would like to see. We have a very capable military. No one should underestimate either the will or the capability of the U.S. military. It would be a tragic mistake, I think, if China were to do the types of things you just described. But they are actively seeking the capability to be effective against us and to defeat us if possible. And we can't resist. We can't be idle while that's happening. We have to respond.
Now, you did just mention the budget. There's certainly the uncertainty looming over Washington right now about the possibility of a partial government shutdown or more likely a continuing resolution. Even a lot of talk, at least among the analyst community, that there is a rising risk of an extended continuing resolution. Why would that be bad for the military?
That would be devastating. All CRs have a very negative impact. They're very inefficient. They delay modernization. It's very important. They delay increases in programs that are going into production, for example. And they make it very difficult for us to plan and to move forward.
Secretary Kendall also urging Congress to move forward on the 100-plus senior officer nominations that have been frozen by Senator Tommy Tuberville. The budget uncertainty, though, has been a weight on defense stocks in general this year. Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, L3Harris, General Dynamics, and others all down double digits year to date, in part because of that. But we also discussed SPACEX, since the revelation that Elon Musk refused to allow use of Starlink service by Ukraine in a surprise attack on Russian forces last fall did cause some public controversy. Now, it's important to note SPACEX wasn't under a military contract at the time. It had been providing terminals to Ukraine for free. That's since changed. The Air Force works closely with SPACEX, for example, on national security launches.
The Air Force and the Department of Defense in general rely on contract arrangements with business. Executable and enforceable contracts. As you mentioned, at the time SpaceX made some unilateral decisions about what to do for Ukraine. They were not on contract to the U.S. or to the Ukraine. I think they were at that point donating their services, essentially. So they had discretion. We run our contracts to basically ensure that we can get the services we need as expected from them, and those, again, are enforceable contracts. So whatever the business arrangement may be, whether it's individual ownership or a publicly held company, we write agreements with those businesses that get us what we need at a reasonable cost.
So this notion that whether it's through Starlink with connectivity capabilities or whether it's through launch with SpaceX's rockets, this notion that the company has become important, like a key player, very important, this idea that Elon Musk is calling the shots on a lot of things that could be tied back to government operations. You bat that down?
Yeah, SpaceX is an important supplier to the government, launch services, and we do buy some communications capability from them and so on. But we do that through business arrangements that we can enforce.